Despite 4 people dying, 68 arrests reported during yesterday's riots on Capitol Hill, the left is trying to claim that BLM protesters, the group, not after the death of George Floyd, those people that said Black Lives Matter, two very different things, but saying the group would have been treated differently. Here's what Biden had to say earlier this afternoon.
No one can tell me that if had been a group of Black Lives Matter protesting yesterday, they wouldn't have been treated very, very differently than the mob of thugs that stormed the Capitol. We all know that's true. And it is unacceptable. Totally unacceptable.
Well, there wasn't anybody there, meaning there were no cops there to stop anybody. But anyway, it doesn't stop Joe from speaking out forcefully. Anyway, Don Lemon tweeting, quote, they allow these people to run rampant in Washington, but they gas peaceful BLM protesters. There was gas in the Capitol yesterday, in case you missed it, tear gas. MSDNC's Joy Reid weighing in on the issue, making these comments last night. Take a look.
Because in their minds, they own this country, they own that Capitol, they own the cops work for them, and people like me have no damn right to try to elect a president. Because we don't get to pick the president. They get to pick the president. They own the president. They own the White House. They own this country. And so when you think you own it, you own the place, you ain't afraid of the police because the police are you, and the police reflect back to them. We're with you. You're good. We're not going to hurt you because you're not them. Guarantee you if that was a Black Lives Matter protest in D.C., there would already be people shackled, arrested, or dead. Shackled, arrested, en masse, or dead.
Joining us now, radio talk show host Larry Elder, nationally syndicated civil rights attorney Leo 2.0. Oh, I don't see the Larry 1.0 hat. I haven't seen it yet. Larry, I saw you. I just, I've been waiting for the Larry 1.0. Larry never needed to make a big transformation. Leo needed to make a transformation. Larry stayed consistent. Larry, we'll start with you.
Well, Sean, Leo, when I was watching these tragic events unfold on television, watching windows being smashed, watching tear gas, watching these protesters being dispersed, my first thought wasn't, what would have happened had the protesters been black? I don't understand that mentality, but if you want to play that game, do our friends on the left read the New York Times and the Washington Post, left-wing newspapers? In 2016, front page story New York Times about a study done by a Harvard economist, happened to be black, and he said the findings were the most shocking of my professional career. He found the police were more hesitant, more reluctant to pull the trigger against a black suspect than a white suspect. He was shocked. A few months earlier, Washington Post, April 27, 2016, my birthday. Big, long story about research analyses going back to the 70s showing how hesitant the police are to pull the trigger on a black suspect. One study found the police were three times more less likely to pull the trigger on a black suspect than a white suspect. Bottom line, if these protesters had been black, the likelihood is it would have been worse because the police would have been more reluctant, more hesitant to use force against black people than white people, as evidenced by studies going back to the 70s. So Joy Reid is full of it. It perpetuates that notion that the police are out to get blacks just because you're blacks. It is a lie, a flat-out lie.
Liam.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Joe Biden should get a PhD in playing the race card. Why did he even raise that issue today? And I'll tell you right now, Sean, what bothers me about this is that it is not an issue of race. Let me tell you right now, Black Lives Matter would have gotten preferential treatment. Larry's right. Let me tell you why. Because Black Lives Matter, if you look at the summer of last summer, police officers were not allowed to arrest every one of those Democratic cities. They didn't prosecute Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter has a table, a chair with the Democrats. So when you have Black Lives Matter, when you talk about Black Lives Matter, the police have to back off. Black Lives Matter is so powerful, they own L.A. County District Attorney. So I'm telling you right now, the Joe Biden race card, the Joy Reid race card, is to placate Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is a political force within the Democratic Party, and they would not only own the Capitol, they would be sitting in the White House right now if they were black.
You know, Larry, if you look at it this way, there's the group Black Lives Matter. We've played the tape often. What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them now? pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. After the George Floyd incident, a lot of people use the term, they're not affiliated with Black Lives Matter, the group. But that's not what many people are saying about Black Lives Matter. They support the group.
Right. And they support the group based upon this false premise, false notion, false narrative that the police are killing black people just because they're black. And as I said just now, if anything, the narrative is the opposite. The truth is the opposite. So it's hurting people. It's not helping people. 7,000 black homicide victims last year. Maybe 1/3 of 1% were killed by police officers, an even smaller percentage who were unarmed. It is a flat-out lie, and it's hurting the country. And why don't people talk about that being divisive instead of talking about Donald Trump hurting things? This whole notion that America remains structurally racist is a narrative that the media pushes for ratings and the Democrat push for votes. And it's outrageous.
And Leo, look, let's look at these cities run by liberal governors for decades, liberal mayors for decades. They have the worst educational systems, and they have the highest incidence of crime and violence. And that they're our fellow American citizens. They're not being kept safe and secure. There's not peace and harmony. We can fix it. We know how to do it. We've done it before. Why don't they do it?
Oh, and because they want to keep the minority communities depressed. They want them owned by the government. They want them dependent on government. Black Lives Matter does not care about black-on-black crime. Black Lives Matter does not care if a police officer gets killed who happens to be black. David Dorn. Black Lives Matter only cares for the hyperbole of getting media attention when there's that occasional white officer involved with a black victim. That is the game they play. And they play it in these democratic cities where school choice is totally abandoned and they basically control their voters in those communities. We got to stop that. We got to break that vicious cycle. School choice is the key to break the poverty cycle and to break the democratic plantation.
Every kid has the right to be safe and secure. Any city, wherever they live, they have a right to a good education. Government's not getting that right. And we have this belief that government can do all these other things. Good luck with that. All right, thank you both. When we come back.